Hey boys and girls, welcome back once again. Jim here with something completely different, something that I've never had the opportunity to really own in the past. I've mentioned in a couple of previous videos, going back even a couple of years, that I've always been fascinated with the beauty of art knives, but typically I only buy knives that I'm going to carry and I'm going to use. So I decided finally I'm going to dip my toe in the water and see what it's like. But I still wanted it to be something that would be made in a way that I could carry it. Not that it would be practical. I don't want you to confuse this with me having some sort of delusions that what I'm about to show you is in some way a practical everyday carry knife, because it most certainly is not. But we did make it to where it could be carried. What you're looking at here is a beautiful masterpiece made by Mr. Reese Weiland. You guys have seen me do a video on one of his knives in the past. That was the Wolverine. Again, another knife with no real practical application, as it was a dual-bladed automatic. If you've never seen that video, oh, you need to go check that out. Anyway, I've had the wonderful opportunity of meeting Reese since making that video and seeing him actually a few times because while I was still living in Florida, he was only about a 3.5 hour drive away. Whenever I would go visit my buddy Frank Fisher and go see Stan Wilson and Todd Fisher, we would always make it a kind of a little thing that we always went to see Reese before the day was over. And the last time I went there was my last trip before I moved out to Dallas, Texas. And me and my buddy Abe made the pilgrimage up there, and we decided for the shit of it, let's go ahead and get something special, because Reese was like, hey, you know, I've got a little tiny bit of free time coming up. I know you've been wanting to get a knife. Do you want me to build you something? I said, yeah, you know what? I want something wildly different. What I was initially looking at was I guess it's the Eagle, which is one half of the Wolverine. And my whole idea was I wanted really rich, bright cobalt blue in Damascus up against, initially I was thinking white mother of pearl. But then he pulled out these two slabs of pre-band genuine ivory. And I went, well, if that's an option, I'd rather get ivory. So the ideas started flowing. Now, this was supposed to be delivered to me at the Blade Show, but unfortunately, due to the nature of natural materials, it provided itself to be a little bit of a pain in the ass to make. So Reese wasn't able to quite make that deadline. And that's fine. I'm a pretty patient guy. There were a couple of things that I wanted to do on this knife that were going to be different. Number one, I wanted a pocket clip, and this is something he's never done on this style of knife, because generally people aren't going to carry a knife like this. But I said, you know, if I don't carry a knife, it's not useful to me. I'm not going to keep it. So let's make it with a pocket clip. He says, okay. And I said, and as such, I want the firing button to be completely flush, because if I'm going to be carrying it, I don't want his typical button, which protrudes about probably 1/8 of an inch out of the scale, and I didn't want it to accidentally fire in the pocket. I said I want it to be dual action, not double action. Double action and dual action are different. For those that don't know, a double action automatic would be a knife that's actuated by one switch, and the switch will open it and retract it. That's a double action. A dual action means that you can manually open the knife, or make sure it doesn't hit my tripod here, you can fire it automatic, and it gives you that choice. So that was the big thing for me. What ended up getting delivered was quite a bit different. As you see, there is no blue in any of the Damascus. It's Damascus dual bolsters and Damascus blade, none of which are blue. But what I got, and I'll tell you, when I initially got it, I was really disappointed, because what I had in my mind for, 3-4 months was blue, blue, blue up against ivory. But what I got was something so wild and so beautiful. Now, my lighting, the way I have to have it set up for video, is not going to show you the beauty in this color quite as much as the photography. So take a look at the thumbnail that I'm using for this video, and you'll see what I actually see on a day-to-day basis. It's a wonderfully rich color. It's basically deep, rich browns and reds with highlights of gold. And I've never seen anything like it. So the way this is constructed, all 4 bolsters are done in Damascus. The blade is done in Damascus, and the clip is done in Damascus. Scales, as I mentioned, are done in pre-band genuine ivory, so is the inlay into the firing button. And then, the titanium liners are blued and jeweled. And it's always hard to get the jeweling. There we go. Now we can see that jeweling right there. And requested file work on the back spacer. Now, me and Abe actually got semi-matching knives. I wanted to go with the S shape in my file work. He went for, I think, the bats, kind of a like a bat wing shape. Obviously, with my last name, kind of wanted to have the S's going on. So let's go ahead and talk about the insane beauty of this knife and the incredible size. What this is the Large Rastor. And again, that was a surprise to me. I was expecting something a bit slimmer and a little bit smaller. But I gotta tell you, if you're gonna go over the top, go fucking over the top. Let's give you some size comparisons here so you get a real idea how big this knife is. You guys all know the Wharncliffe Tannic, and that is a big chunky knife. Yet it looks like a midget compared to that knife. Or should I say little knife, to be politically correct. It's not a midget, it's a little knife. I don't know if there's really politically correctness for that. Put it up next to the Pena Semi-Dirty Diesel. And again, I mean, there's no friggin' comparison. It's insane. Against the Medford Praetorian T Stealth. There's not a lot of knives out there that make a Medford Praetorian look small, but that certainly does. The only knife that I really own in my collection that rivals the blade length is going to be my precious Joel Perella and Brian Ty Bengal. They both have 4 1/4 inch blades. As you see, there is a very dramatic hawkbill on this blade. And that was another thing that I really wanted to have. I wanted to have a hawkbill. I've never owned a hawkbill, and I wanted something that was wildly fantastical and different. And that is precisely what I got. Look at that friggin' Damascus. That is just amazing. Look how sexy that is. All in all, Reese did an absolutely outstanding job. The fit and finish on this is just gorgeous. Now, realize when you're dealing with natural materials like ivory, you may not always get that perfect, seamless integration on a bolstered knife because the ivory can shrink and swell. So please do keep that in mind. This is not an example where I would go, oh, it doesn't meet up 100%, it's not totally seamless, so it's not perfect. You know, if this were carbon fiber, yeah, damn sure you should not see a line at all. But with a natural material that can shrink and that can expand, it is something that you're never going to get 100% totally perfect. But I got to tell you, it is really, really, really well done. There is the lockup for those that are curious. It is a standard liner lock. So again, if you want to, you can use it as a manual. It's very fast, very, very smooth. Or fire it with that button there. Very strong, very quick. For those wondering what that hole is actually where this switch is holding that in under the pressure of the spring. So it is using a leaf spring. We'll take a good look in there and you'll actually see it. That's what that silver going on inside there is. That is the leaf spring. Very large, very strong leaf spring. He really did an exceptional job. This is a knife that, yeah, you're not carrying this for any type of practicality. This is 100% pure show-off knife. I have carried it 3 times since I received it, and it is a bitch. It is a bitch to carry. This weighs probably close to 14 ounces. Remember, this is not titanium all through here. It's all Damascus steel and very big, thick chunks of it. So it's going to be a very, very heavy knife just because of that. So yeah, it is cumbersome. It takes up a lot of room in the pocket. We'll compare it to the Medford and you can see how tall it is. And it doesn't taper quite as much as the Medford does either. So when you're carrying that in the pocket, it is your dedicated knife pocket. I don't really put anything else in that pocket anyway, but for those of you that do, you're not going to carry a large raster in your pocket with your keys or anything else. Let's take a look at that beautifully sculpted Damascus clip. He put a lot of time, a lot of work into this knife. And it is as perfect as you could ever expect. And yeah, obviously being Ivory and being all Damascus, this was not a cheap knife. But in the world of art knives, where you can easily, and I do mean easily, spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on a knife, I find it to be quite a bargain. You could have something like this made without such exotic materials and probably spend $1,000, $1,200, $1,300. Obviously, when you go this crazy, it's going to be a hell of a lot more, but holy shit. I can tell you right now, every time that I've pulled this out of my pocket, people have just stared in awe. Now, I don't mean I'm whipping it out in the middle of Target while I'm waiting in line to pay for diapers. That's not what I mean. I mean, when I'm talking to somebody and they go, hey, what knife are you carrying? And then I pull it out, they're expecting it. I'm not just like surprising it on somebody standing behind them in line at the fucking bank. Please don't do that. But when I do pull it out and I show it to somebody, they can't help but gasp. Now, I've dealt with that all my life, but I'm just talking about the knife right now. So when I pull it out and they see it, they're like, oh my God. Number one, the size of it is going to amaze them. It's a massive handful. And then they see the beauty of the Damascus. They see the way the color shifts in different lighting. I have to apologize. I got a few little smudges on there. We had a little get together over at Jerry Mowen's knife shop and had a few collectors there and other knife makers, and this was a knife that everybody definitely wanted to paw, and I don't really think I cleaned it off as well as I should have for this video, but oh my goodness, what an amazing piece of art. So does that mean I'm going to be an art knife collector? Nah, probably not. Listen, it's a huge investment per knife, and they're so beautiful, and they're so incredibly detailed that you really don't want to hurt it. Now, I don't abuse any of my knives. I'm pretty gentle on most of them, and then I clean them up and I take care of them and I lube them and I put EDCI solution. I take care of my shit. But, I mean, if you were using this, and again, I have carried it, and if something were to come across my path and I had to open a box or cut a rope or whatever else, yeah, this is, it would get used. But it's not the kind of knife I want to have to replace any part of it because I've destroyed it, because I've been a dumbass and dropped it on the pavement or something like that. I love my semi-dirty diesel, but this is a knife that if I'm roughhousing, and I drop it or I scrape it up or something crazy happens, that's what it's made for. That's okay. It's a tactical knife. It's a common, everyday, wonderful EDC knife. This is not. That blade would cost more than that entire knife. So I don't want to go dropping this and, chip the blade or something stupid like that. So I don't know that I'm really going to be a big art knife collector. It is a beautiful knife to stare at. It's beautiful to pull it out of my pocket on the days I carry it and go, wow, it's really cool to own this. But that's really the limitation for that kind of knife. I do see myself owning probably a couple more in my lifetime. Just probably not in that, vein of, Joe Caius or Ron Best or, something like that where I have to spend, tens of thousands of dollars for a single knife. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. Hey, if I hit the lotto, I'll buy a Ron Best for all my best friends. How about that? But until then, I'm going to stick with my, good EDC knives, my flippers and whatnot. But there are certain days where I just want to put this in the pocket and go. And it's a lot of fun for that. As long as I'm wearing a strong belt. This is like carrying a fucking brick in your pocket. A beautiful brick. Or artisanal brick. But it's a brick nonetheless. Look at that. So I know a lot of you guys that follow me on Instagram have been begging and begging for me to get the video made on this. I had a lot of other videos ahead of it that I had to get done. I got a couple of those out of the way, but I did bump this up just so you guys would quit pestering me. Oh man, that thing. I can't get over it myself. I've had it now for a few weeks and I still can't get over it. I still look at it and ogle it and go, wow, holy shit, I actually own that. So to Reese, I say thank you. I know you put a lot of work into these knives. You took a lot of time to do it, and I really appreciate the effort that you put into both mine and Abe's. It's something that I'll never forget the experience of having it built. I'll never forget the experience of first getting it and now having it in my collection. And that's really what knife collecting is for me. It really is about the experience, the collective experience, the individual experiences, and the experiences of dealing with, you know, the different knife makers that are out there. And Reese, as I've said before, he's a madman. He's crazy. He's got a couple of screws loose, and that allows him to be unshackled in his creativity. When you look across his body of work, it's insane. You know, just Google his name and click on images and you'll see all kinds of stuff. Go to ArizonaCustomKnives.com and look up Reese Weiland and see the different things that he's made. And you think to yourself, wow, this guy has a lot of shit running around in his head. I think it's little design demons that bounce around in his brain. But whatever it is, I'm thankful for it because I think I've got one hell of a knife out of it. Again, not a practical knife by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't made to be, but with the couple of requests that I made with the flush button and the pocket clip, it is a little bit more practical than the other ones that he's built prior. Give you a nice close-up look on the way out the door here, and we shall be moving on. I apologize for giving you guys a little bit of glare, but I'm trying to get all of the right angles on this so you can somewhat see the beauty of the Damascus that he chose for this. Because it really is quite breathtaking in real life. Great job on that flush button. Look at that. And you got to realize that's curved also to match the curvature of the scale. Alright guys, with that, I'm out of here and I will see you on the next video.